Hi there, and welcome to this introductory video to your 28-day program to optimal health. My name's Andrea Bremner. I pulled together this program after many years of research and experience in the health and wellness industry. Firstly, trying to improve my own health and then the health of my friends and family and ultimately my clients. So there are in all 28 videos. This is the first one, just the introduction here. And the next 27 will be really action plans for you to take to start working towards optimum health. On the other videos that come through, there'll also be documents that you can read, which have a list of the actions that you need to take, as well as some recipes. You will also be receiving a link from me to my website with a password, which gives you access to all my recipes that you can use that are linked to this program. Mainly, the whole goal of the 28 days is to teach you to become what I like to call a fat-burning animal, which means that you are, in the scientific world, called fat-adapted or metabolically flexible, and it means that you can actually burn fat for fuel. Now, in the Western world, we have a very carbohydrate-rich diet. We eat a lot of carbs. And though carbs in small amounts aren't necessarily bad for us, carbs in excess are. And the problem is with carbohydrates is they get broken down into glucose, and then that glucose gets absorbed into our bloodstream. And when we get an influx of glucose into the blood, the body sees that as toxic. So it instructs the pancreas to pump out insulin. And we then get an increase in insulin in the blood. And insulin's job is to shuttle glucose out of the blood into the muscle to be used for energy. And the only problem with having too much insulin is that insulin's job is actually to switch off fat burning. So as soon as we have an influx of insulin in our body, we will not be able to burn any fat. So that's really one of the problems of glucose. The other thing also, when we get this insulin response, is actually it pulls glucose then out of the blood into the muscles and into the liver for storage. And then we get a drop of glucose in the blood. And this makes us feel tired and reduces our energy levels and creates more cravings for more carbohydrates or more glucose so that we can get glucose back into the bloodstream for energy. So there are, that's a bad reason for having too much carbohydrate, having too much glucose. The problem is also with this increase in blood glucose levels and then a drop in blood glucose levels, and then having cravings and eating more carbohydrates and getting an increase in blood glucose, and then ultimately having a drop again. We spend our whole day with our blood glucose levels going up and down and up and down. And this is called metabolic syndrome. And this really, for me, is the cause of obesity, cause of diabetes, cause of heart disease, and the cause of cancers as well. So what we need to do is really stabilize these blood sugar levels. The other thing, the other problem really with glucose is that when we use it as a source of energy in our cells, it produces a lot of free radicals. So in our cells, we have little bacteria-like organisms called mitochondria. And if you can cast your mind back to your biology O-level from my age or GCSE, you've probably heard of mitochondria. Mitochondria are the powerhouses of our cells. They produce energy in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and ATP is energy resource for anywhere in the body, energy currency. So we can use this to produce energy within the body. The problem is when we produce ATP by using glucose, we produce a lot of free radicals. And free radicals are unstable atoms that can rampage around the body, and they cause disease and are the cause of a lot of cancers as well. So though our body always has free radicals within them, the aim really is to get the free radicals down to a minimum as much as we possibly can. So another reason for not having too much glucose as a source of energy, because of this production of free radicals. But let's have a little look at fats. So healthy fats. This really, for me, is what we need to do, is to reduce the carbohydrates and to increase the amount of fats that we consume. And this kind of goes against everything that we've been told for years and years, that we've always been told to have these low-fat diets, which actually have just been very high in carbohydrates. And now what I'm asking you to do is to have a low carbohydrate diet, and therefore one that is higher in fat. We've got to get our energy from somewhere. So getting it from fat is actually a healthier way to do it. And when fats get stored in the body, as we know, and these fats get oxidized, and when they do, they produce ketones. And these ketones become fuel in our cells, in our body. And our mitochondria in our cells much prefer ketones to produce energy than using glucose. And one of the reasons is that a lot less free radicals are produced when our mitochondria use ketones to produce ATP instead of using glucose. The other thing that's also great when we consume fats is we don't get this increase in blood sugar, and we don't get this increase in insulin release. And hence we don't get the peaks and troughs of blood sugar throughout the day. We get a much stabler blood sugar, so we don't have any cravings, and we get sustained energy. And if we also cast our mind back to where we came from, our caveman days, the caveman wouldn't have had that many carbohydrates throughout the year in his diet. He probably would have gorged on carbohydrates in the autumn when all the fruits came out and the berries came out and the vegetables came out. That's probably when he would have gorged on carbohydrates, the sort of harvest festival time of year. And the caveman would have been programmed to be addicted to these carbohydrates, because the caveman was about to go into winter. And when he goes into winter, he's going to not have much food available. So what happens when the caveman, or when we eat carbohydrates, we lay down fat. And we lay down that fat because when we eat carbohydrates, we produce insulin, which switches off our fat burning and helps us lay down fat. So the caveman would have been addicted to carbohydrates, would have gorged on them for 6 to 8 weeks of the year, pre-winter, would have got nice and fat, ready for the winter, so that he could be warm. And also he had a source of energy in his body to keep him going through the months of winter when food was a little bit more scarce. And then for the rest of the year, the caveman really wouldn't have eaten that many carbohydrates. He'd have lived on meat and fat from meat. He might have got the odd vegetable out of the ground. He might have tried to attack some bees' nests to get some honey. But other than that, he would have lived on a much higher fat and maybe fibrous diet from chewing on some vegetables that he could dig out of the ground. So a sort of a high fat, lower carbohydrate diet is really what our body is metabolically used to and what our body should be using when it comes to energy sources. Now, interestingly, when we start burning fats and we're reducing our glucose stores, we go into something which can be called keto flu, which makes us feel a little bit rough. Because for us to be able to burn fats as a source of energy, we need to reduce our stores of carbohydrate in the body. Now, carbohydrate gets broken down to glucose and gets stored in the muscle and in the liver as glycogen, as a ready source of energy. And we have our muscles and our liver will be high in stores of glycogen, just ready for energy for the body. For our body to switch over to burning fat for fuel, we need to actually get rid of these stores of glycogen or run them very low. And how we do that is we just stop eating carbohydrates for a period of time to allow those glycogen stores to run low. And once they've run down very low, the body is kind of forced to use ketones for fuel instead of using glucose for fuel. But in that time period of running down the glycogen stores and before our body kicks into being a fat-burning animal, there's a period of time, some people it's 2 to 3 days, some people it's 2 to 3 weeks, where you might feel a little bit rough and you get keto flu. And when you have keto flu, basically you might feel a lot more tired than you're used to. And this is because the brain uses 25% of the source of our energy. And when we aren't getting that energy from glucose or glycogen, the brain will panic a little bit, will send messages to the adrenal glands to pump out adrenaline, to put more sugar into the blood. So we might feel a little bit anxious, we might have a few more cravings, and we might even get little breakouts in our skin. Basically, whatever is your area of weakness is what tends to be attacked when you get your keto flu. And some people don't get it at all, to be honest. Some people just switch quite happily from burning glucose to burning ketones. I'm very jealous of those people because it took me a long while to be able to get my body fully into nutritional ketosis. But just be prepared that you might feel a little bit worse before you feel better, and there is nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's a good sign because it means that you're doing the right thing, lowering your glycogen stores. The other thing that will happen as you start to reduce these stores of glycogen is that you will lose a bit of water. And the reason being that every gram of glycogen is stored with a gram of water. So as you lose your glycogen stores, you also lose more water. This might mean that you go to the toilet a little bit more often at the start. But the other thing that will happen is because our soluble minerals and vitamins, which are in this water, will be washed out of our body, which means that we might deplete ourselves of some vitamins and minerals at the start. So it's important that, number one, we're drinking a lot. And number two, we're replacing the salts in our body. And we can do this by adding pinches of pink Himalayan salt, which is the best salt, to our foods. If you suffer from high blood pressure, then just be careful adding salt to your food because you might find that it just makes your blood pressure higher. So if you do have high blood pressure, make sure that you speak to a doctor or your GP about doing this before you do. But those of you that don't have high blood pressure, just adding a little pinch of salt to your diet isn't going to cause any problem and is actually going to help replace some of these lost vitamins and minerals. Why I say pink Himalayan salt is just more nutritional rich than just normal table salt. It comes from the Himalayas, which is a very hardy and tough environment. And hence things that survive in the Himalayas are very rich in vitamins and minerals. That's why these plants have survived there. And hence all the sources from the Himalayas, including the water, will be rich in vitamins and minerals. So that's why I suggest having pink Himalayan salt. And one thing that I will teach you to do on the program is how to measure whether you are in nutritional ketosis or not. Once you get into nutritional ketosis, you will notice that you will feel a lot better. Your energy levels will increase. Your cravings will stop. You will start to sleep better. Your mental clarity will improve. You will feel less anxious. You will start to naturally lose weight if that's what you want to do. A whole host of things will happen. But it's also good to be able to measure it. So I teach you how to measure it with a ketone meter. I also teach you how to keep an eye on your blood glucose levels by using a blood glucose monitor. You will find in all the videos that they are as educational as they are practical. So not only am I teaching you how I want you to eat, I'm also teaching you why. And when you understand the why, the reasons behind this program, then you become much more motivated to stick with it. So yes, it's a real educational program. And at the end of these 28 sets of videos, you will be very educated in how to really eat for the rest of your life. This isn't just a 28-day short-term fix. It really is looking at your diet for the rest of your life, making changes for the rest of your life. And hence, if there's anything that I suggest on the program that you don't enjoy or you don't like doing, then just don't do it. There are many other things in the program that you will enjoy and you will want to stick to. You see, if you don't like it, you don't enjoy it, you won't stick with it. And I just want to make sure that you enjoy the things that you do on the program so that you will stick with them. Some things that are removed alongside carbohydrates. By the way, we don't completely remove carbohydrates. There are obviously carbohydrates are good for us in small doses and certain types of carbohydrates. So that is all explained to you on the program. But reducing our consumption of carbohydrates is certainly part of the program. Other things that I like to remove from the program just for a short period of time so that you can try it out, because it's not going to do you any harm and it may make you feel a lot better. And that is taking out cow's milk and cow's yogurt. I don't mind a little bit of cheese and I don't mind butter, but cow's milk and yogurt really need to come out for the period of this program. And also gluten. Which comes from, it's a protein which is found in wheat, barley, rye and malt, and just like to take this out for a period of time. The reason why I take these two out is because they do have proteins in them. Milk has casein, and gluten is the protein itself, which actually can be a little bit inflammatory in the gut. And what I'm trying to do here is really calm down the gut, make the gut as healed as possible, which is what we're trying to do. We're really trying to heal your gut. The reason why we look at healing your gut is because the gut houses three very important and large systems of the body. Number one, it houses 80% of the immune system. So if our gut is unhealthy at all, then the immune system will be constantly on high alert. And what we want to do is take the pressure off the immune system so that it's allowed to actually deal with the rest of its job in other parts of the body instead of constantly being inflamed and sending off inflammatory markers as a result of toxicity in the gut. Second system that's of importance in the gut is the nervous system. The gut houses one of the largest nervous systems outside of the brain and the spinal cord. It's larger than any peripheral nervous system in the body. So it houses this huge nervous system. And they have, you've probably heard that they call them the nervous system of the gut, the second brain. It's called the enteric nervous system because it houses huge intelligence. And we used to always think it was the brain that was telling the gut what to do. But having looked at the science, we realized that for every neuron that's traveling from the brain to the gut, there are 7 traveling from the gut to the brain. So it's actually the gut that's telling the brain what to do and not the other way around. Because we house this huge nervous system in our gut, the gut makes a lot of our neurotransmitters, and our neurotransmitters are chemical messengers which help to make the body function optimally. So it goes to say, again, if the gut is unhealthy, then our nervous system isn't going to be functioning properly, and we will suffer neurologically as a result. This is where the gut can really affect our mental health. 90% of our serotonin, which is our happy hormone, is made, or happy neurotransmitter, should I say, is made in our gut. And this actually has a huge impact on our mental health, particularly when it comes to anxiety and depression. So being able to have a healthy gut and produce the right levels of serotonin is going to have a huge knock-on effect with our mental health. And the third system that the gut houses is the endocrine system. It has the largest endocrine organ in the body is the gut. It makes a huge number of our hormones, and our hormones again are chemical messengers which help our body to function optimally. So it goes to show that again, if our gut is toxic or our gut is unhealthy, then our hormonal systems will be not working optimally either. One of the big things I get you to learn to make on the program is bread. So obviously if you're not having gluten, then bread is off, but bread is a real staple in our diet. So it's important that you learn how to make your own. So I do teach you how to make gluten-free, very low carbohydrate bread. It takes you about 5 to 10 minutes to make once you know how, and about between 30 and 50 minutes in the oven, depending on which type of bread. I get you to make a PK bread or a caveman bread, and they're both delicious, and they serve to help with breakfast, lunches, snacks. So that's something that I will be teaching you to make. The other thing that I teach you to make is your own snacks. One of them is something which I call fat balls. You'll find if you look up ketogenic fat balls, you'll find lots of recipes on the internet, but I do give you my own recipe for fat balls, which again is very easy to make. And you just pop them in the fridge, and they serve as a little snack, a little source of energy if you're feeling a bit peckish. And they also kind of satisfy that sweet and chocolate craving because they do actually have cocoa powder in them. Something else I get you to learn is how to reduce your toxic load. In this environment that we live in today, there's a huge number of toxins in our environment, many more than we had 70 years ago. So we need to learn how to reduce the amount of toxins that our body is being exposed to. We're not only exposed to toxins in our diet, that's why I ask you to eat as much organic as you can, but we're also exposed to toxins in the air, but also in the products that we use, cleaning products in our house, and also products that we put on our skin, from our hair shampoo to our makeup to how we clean our skin as well. So that's something else I will be teaching you to do, is to reduce your toxic load. And in addition to that, so it's not just totally about diet, it's also about reducing toxins. In addition to that, I also look a little bit at lifestyle, so how we can reduce stress levels, because that has a huge impact on our optimal health, how to improve our sleep, and also how to protect ourselves from viruses, so that if we feel a little sniffle coming on, we can knock it on the head immediately. What I'd like to say is that this program is best done slowly. So don't try and do it all at once. Don't try and watch all the videos all in one day. They are designed to be watched once, one video per day, and then follow the actions for that video for that day, and then move on to a new video on the second day. You might find that if you suddenly have a stressful time period in your life, where you're very busy at work, for example, that you don't watch any videos that day. You just maybe pause the program for 2 or 3 days and then start catching up with it. When you have a bit more time to be able to start implementing the action that I ask you to do. I would say that the people that get the most out of the program is when they do it slowly. It's not a race, and you don't have to complete it in 28 days. It may take you 60 days to complete the program, and that's absolutely fine. The other thing, before I close, is to say that it's important that being in ketosis for the long term is not 100% healthy for us. We need to kick ourselves out of ketosis from time to time, which means that it is important that we do have carbohydrate-rich days occasionally within our lifestyle, whether that is once a week or 2 days a month or 2 weeks of the year. It really depends on your lifestyle and how you want to implement that. But that's something that I discuss in our final video, which is really the maintenance video at the end. So be sure to watch that video once you've completed the other ones in the middle, and that will talk to you. And in that video, I'll explain to you about, now that you've learned how to become fat adapted and metabolically flexible, what you then need to do for the long term to make sure that you maintain your optimal health that you've achieved. So that brings me to the end of this video, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the program, and please give me some feedback when you are finished.